My friend, there is a covenant older than time itself, a divine promise that transcends culture, economy, and generations. It is the Abrahamic Covenant of wealth. This is not ordinary success. It's supernatural provision. It is the blessing that lifted Abraham from obscurity into abundance, transforming a wandering nomad into a man whose name echoes across history. And that same power still flows today. If you've ever felt stuck, limited, or trapped in cycles of financial struggle, I came to remind you that the blessing didn't end with Abraham. It's waiting for you to activate it. Before you scroll away, pause and feel this truth in your spirit. You were never created for lack. You were born into the inheritance of faith. When God told Abraham, as recorded in Genesis 12, 1, 2, to leave his country and promised to bless him and make his name great, he was setting a pattern for every believer after him. That promise didn't expire, it multiplied. The Abrahamic blessing is a divine current still flowing through those who believe, waiting for bold faith to plug in. This is not about greed, it's about grace. It's not about chasing money, it's about walking in covenant. The first step to activating this covenant wealth is revelation. You cannot claim what you do not understand. Abraham didn't stumble into riches by accident. He encountered a revelation of God as his source. Many pray for money but ignore the principles behind divine provision. Abraham's wealth began the moment he listened and obeyed. When God spoke, Abraham didn't argue, he acted. That obedience opened the gates of heaven over his life. Revelation gives you sight in a world full of blindness. When you understand that God, not your job or your business, is the true provider, your mindset shifts from limitation to multiplication. God's instruction to Abraham to leave his father's house was more than relocation. It was separation from limitation. To walk in divine abundance, you must be willing to leave behind small thinking, fear, and environments that drown your faith. As recorded in Genesis 12, when Abraham moved, heaven moved with him. Every act of obedience on earth triggers a reaction in heaven. Your miracle is not waiting for more prayer, it's waiting for your next step. Faith in action is the heartbeat of Abrahamic wealth. Abraham believed before he saw any evidence. He didn't need proof to proceed, the promise was enough. That's where many lose momentum. They wait for manifestation before motion. Yet, as Genesis 15:6 reveals, Abraham's faith was counted to him as righteousness. Faith itself is the down payment of your blessing. When you act in faith, you unlock favor. When Abraham looked up at the stars, he saw more than the night sky, he saw destiny. God told him his descendants would outnumber the stars. That vision wasn't just about lineage, it was about legacy. The Abrahamic Covenant is generational wealth influence that multiplies through purpose. You are not meant to make ends meet. You are meant to make nations prosper. Every believer is called to be a conduit of blessing, not a container of survival. And remember what followed in Genesis 22, when Abraham placed his son Isaac on the altar, the principle of sacrifice. Every covenant has a price. Abraham gave his best, not to lose it, but to prove his trust. When God saw that his heart valued obedience over possession, he provided a ram in Isaac's place. That's when Abraham named the place Jehovah Jireh, the Lord will provide. Provision always appears on the mountain of surrender. Many desire Abraham's reward, but resist his sacrifice. You cannot claim the promise and skip the process. Every seed of obedience you sow tells heaven, you can trust me with more. God responds to trust. The altar of sacrifice is not about losing something valuable, it's about gaining something eternal. The next key to activating this wealth is vision. In Genesis 12:3, God told Abraham that through him, all the families of the earth would be blessed. Divine wealth always carries divine purpose. If your dream ends with you, it's too small. Abraham's wealth was generational because his vision was global. When your goals include blessing others, building, giving, teaching, empowering, God supplies without limit. God is not against wealth, he's against selfishness. The moment your vision aligns with his heart, resources flow effortlessly. Stop chasing income and start chasing impact. Heaven funds purpose. When your why is right, your what begins to multiply. Abraham's wealth wasn't about showing off, it was about showing God's faithfulness to the world. At the center of all this lies relationship. Abraham didn't chase riches, he pursued God. As Genesis 12:7 recounts, Abraham built altars everywhere he went. Every victory was followed by worship. That's the rhythm of divine wealth. Revelation, obedience, worship, and increase. When you keep God first, He makes sure you never come last. Wealth becomes a reflection of your walk with Him, not a replacement for it. Many people today know about God, but few walk with Him. Abraham's life teaches that prosperity flows from presence. When your relationship with God is intimate, your decisions become inspired. You stop chasing trends and start following truth. Make God the CEO of your destiny. Consult Him about every plan. When the Creator becomes your consultant, creation begins to cooperate with you. The journey of Abraham also teaches obedience in uncertainty. As Hebrews 11:8 records, Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out, not knowing where he was going. That is the definition of faith. God doesn't always show you the full map, He shows you the next step. And every obedient step activates the next level of blessing. Some of the greatest financial miracles are waiting beyond your comfort zone. If life feels uncertain right now, take courage. You are in the same path Abraham walked. Uncertainty is not a sign of God's absence. It's a sign of His stretching. The covenant thrives in moments that test your faith. When you step out, even trembling, heaven begins to orchestrate outcomes you could never plan. Abraham trusted, and God transformed his trust into treasure. Covenant consciousness is another pillar of Abrahamic wealth. In Genesis 14, when the king of Sodom offered Abraham wealth, he refused it, declaring that no man would claim to have made him rich. That's covenant identity, knowing your source so deeply that you don't compromise your integrity for opportunity. When you're covenant-minded, you operate above fear and dependency. You don't bow to systems. Systems bow to your faith. Living with covenant awareness means waking up every day with the mindset of a blessed person. You are not trying to become blessed. You already are blessed in Christ, the seed of Abraham. Poverty is not just a condition, it's a mindset. Change your mind and you'll change your manifestation. When you see yourself as a covenant heir, confidence replaces anxiety, and gratitude replaces greed. Every covenant requires strategy, and God never blesses without one. Abraham's increase wasn't random, it was directed. In Genesis 13:14-15, after Abraham separated from Lot, God told him to lift up his eyes and look for all the land he could see would be his. That moment of separation opened his vision. Divine strategy often begins with divine separation. God cannot show you new territory while you're still clinging to old attachments. When you release what limits you, He reveals what's prepared for you. Divine wealth operates on the foundation of wisdom. God doesn't just drop riches into your lap. He gives you insight, innovation, and ideas that attract wealth. Abraham built systems, managed resources, and trained servants. Every blessing came with instruction. That's why prayer must always be followed by practice. When you ask for increase, also ask for insight. Heaven's wealth flows through the channel of wisdom. One divine idea can accomplish what years of labor cannot. With that strategy comes the principle of honor and integrity. As Proverbs 22:1 declares, a good name is worth more than riches. Abraham honored those around him, kings, strangers, and family alike. His wealth was built not just on obedience, but on reputation. God blesses those who walk uprightly because integrity sustains what favor begins. You can't expect divine abundance while living with deceitful motives. Covenant wealth is built on character as much as on calling. Integrity keeps the blessing pure. Abraham never used manipulation to gain advantage. He understood that the God who blessed him could sustain him. When you live honorably, even those who dislike you will have to respect you. Honor is spiritual currency. It purchases access that money cannot buy. When your name carries honesty, doors open before you even knock. Another key that unlocked Abraham's wealth was generosity. As Genesis 14:19-20 records, Abraham gave a tenth of all he possessed to Melchizedek, acknowledging God as the possessor of heaven and earth. Tithing was Abraham's declaration that God was his source. Generosity is the proof of gratitude. Every time you give, you align yourself with heaven's economy. The open hand becomes the open channel. Generosity isn't just financial, it's a lifestyle. Abraham gave time, help, and hospitality. He hosted angels without knowing it. Covenant wealth doesn't hoard, it helps. When you bless others, you multiply yourself in them. When your giving becomes guided by love, you never run dry. God never forgets a giver. Every seed becomes a testimony in the making. And don't overlook patience. Abraham waited decades for Isaac, but he never gave up on the promise. Hebrews 6:15 tells us that after he had patiently endured, he obtained the promise. Patience is faith stretched over time. Covenant blessings are not microwaved, they're matured. Each waiting season is a classroom where God trains your heart to handle the harvest. You might be asking, why hasn't it happened yet? But I assure you the delay is not denial. God is building capacity. Abraham couldn't father nations until he became one with the promise. Maturity takes time. When you understand that God's timing protects you, not punishes you, peace replaces frustration. What he started, he will complete, but not before you're ready to manage it. Faith-filled words are another vital force in activating Abrahamic wealth. Romans 4:17 teaches that God calls things that are not as though they were, and Abraham imitated him. Before Isaac was born, Abraham was already calling himself a father of many nations. That's not arrogance, that's agreement. Your tongue is a covenant tool. Every declaration is a seed that grows into manifestation. Speak as Abraham spoke. Instead of saying, I'm broke, say, I'm blessed beyond measure. Instead of saying, I don't see a way, say, God is making a way. Heaven echoes what faith declares. Wealth begins in words before it appears in wallets. Keep your mouth aligned with your miracle. When you speak faith, you authorize the supernatural to invade the natural. Discipline and stewardship follow naturally. In 1 Corinthians 4:2, Paul reminds us that it is required of stewards to be found faithful. Abraham managed his household, his flocks, and his resources with excellence. Wealth without order becomes a curse. Stewardship is how you prove readiness for expansion. If you can handle little faithfully, God will trust you with much. Many cry out for millions while wasting the hundreds they already have. Stewardship turns small into great. Budgeting, planning, and saving are spiritual practices as much as financial ones. Abraham built altars and well symbols of sustainability. Don't just desire blessings, design systems to preserve them. A covenant steward leaves legacy, not leftovers. The company you keep also matters. Proverbs 13:20 warns that he who walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. Abraham's journey accelerated when he separated from Lot. Some relationships are not wrong, they're just no longer right for your season. The wrong people can block divine conversations. When Lot left, God spoke again. Sometimes silence is not a lack of direction, it's a sign of overcrowding. Surround yourself with people who stretch your faith, not shrink it. Walk with those who dream like you, pray like you, and think legacy, not limitation. Covenant wealth thrives in the soil of good company. Abraham prospered because he valued connection with God more than comfort with men. Choose your inner circle wisely. Every friendship is either fuel or fire. Finally, consistency sustains the covenant. Hebrews 6:12 says, we inherit the promises through faith and patience. Abraham didn't build his life on emotional spurts. He built it on steady devotion. He prayed continually, gave continually, and trusted continually. Consistency turns moments into movements. Wealth is not born in one act of faith. It's built through daily faithfulness. Keep showing up even when results are slow. Keep believing even when doors seem closed. Every act of obedience, every declaration of faith, every moment of gratitude compounds into destiny. Abraham lived long, full, and fulfilled because he never stopped walking with God. The covenant worked then, and it still works now for those who remain steadfast. When you see yourself as Abraham did, a partner in promise, everything changes. Your work becomes worship. Your giving becomes gratitude. Your faith becomes fuel. You no longer chase money. Money starts following your mission. That's the flow of the Abrahamic covenant. Purpose attracts provision. And that's when you realize that wealth is not the end goal. It's the byproduct of walking with God. Abraham didn't chase possessions. He attracted them through alignment. You too are designed to be a magnet for divine opportunities, not a slave to financial anxiety. When your heart stays right, your hands never stay empty. The Abrahamic blessing is generational. It's meant to outlive you. What God begins with your faith should overflow to your children, your community, and your legacy. You are not called to accumulate. You're called to distribute. You're not just blessed, you are a blessing system. And as Proverbs 10:22 reminds us, it is the blessing of the Lord that makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. That means divine wealth doesn't drain you, it develops you. It doesn't stress you, it strengthens you. When you walk in covenant, you rise with peace, prosper with purpose, and rest in God's promise. My friend, everything you've heard today leads to this. The Abrahamic covenant is not a myth or a story of the past. It is a living promise, a spiritual law that still governs divine prosperity today. When you understand it, believe it, and act on it, something begins to shift in your life. You stop striving and start walking. You stop surviving and start thriving. You realize that you are not waiting for the blessing has been waiting for you. The moment you awaken to that truth, everything changes: your mindset, your attitude, your expectation, and your results. As written in Genesis 12, God told Abraham to leave the familiar so he could bless him beyond measure. That same invitation stands before you today. God is calling you out of limitation, out of fear, doubt, and scarcity into covenant abundance. The Abrahamic wealth is not about money alone. It's about dominion, purpose, and stewardship. It's the kind of wealth that transforms lives, builds nations, and glorifies God. When you walk in covenant consciousness, you're no longer a beggar hoping for favor. You are a carrier of blessing, distributing heaven's abundance wherever you go. So I challenge you right now, rise up with faith like Abraham. Speak as he spoke, walk as he walked, give as he gave, and believe as he believed. Your destiny is bigger than your current situation. Your background cannot stop your breakthrough. Every promise God made to Abraham now flows to you through faith. Remember what Galatians 3:29 declares: if you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and an heir according to the promise. That means the same favor, the same provision, the same overflow that followed Abraham is already assigned to your name. You are the next living testimony of covenant success. From today, begin to think like Abraham. Let faith lead your finances. Let obedience guide your opportunities. And let purpose power your prosperity. Don't just pray for blessing, position yourself for it. Build your altar daily in prayer, manage what you have faithfully, and honor God with your increase. When you do, He multiplies what you offer. That's how the covenant works. Your obedience becomes the seed, and God's faithfulness becomes the harvest. You are not meant to blend in with financial struggle. You are meant to stand out in covenant success. Even when the world panics, you will prosper. Even when systems fail, you will flourish. Because the economy of heaven doesn't crash, it only multiplies. The blessing of the Lord will locate you, the same way it located Abraham in his wilderness. The same God who supplied a ram for Abraham will supply everything you need for your purpose. Now lift your spirit and declare it boldly. I am blessed to be a blessing. I am walking in the covenant of Abraham. Wealth is my assignment, purpose is my path, and favor is my portion. Don't just say it, believe it. Because faith is not a feeling, it's a conviction that transforms your condition. And if this message has ignited something inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Share the blessing. Hit that like button, comment below. I receive the Abrahamic wealth, and let the world know that your covenant season has begun. Subscribe to this channel right now so you never miss a message that strengthens your faith, sharpens your purpose, and activates your destiny. And before you leave, share this video with someone you love, because every time you spread revelation, you multiply the reach of God's word. Remember this always, the Abrahamic Covenant is alive. The promise still stands, the blessing still works, and your season of divine wealth has already started. Stand tall, walk in faith, and go manifest the abundance that heaven has reserved for you. The world is waiting for your testimony, so go and live it.